Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard 101 video. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to defeat Loon Knight in Selenopolis for Wizard 101. I've uploaded guides for the previous bosses, which would be Mother Sun and Taking Tree. So now it's the third iteration, which is Loon Knight. Loon Knight you fight towards the end of Selenopolis, so kind of in a rush to upload a bunch of videos because the update is actually coming out, or it will be out by the time this video comes out, who knows. But yeah, Selenopolis is right around the corner, so I gotta make all these guides for you guys and I'll post them on the channel and everything like that. All these slides that I will be mentioning in the video will be in the Discord, so definitely join the Discord. We gotta get to we already got to 900 members, we gotta get to 1,000 members. And on top of that, you guys should be subscribing. I'm going to be streaming basically Selenopolis the entire day tomorrow, or whenever this video comes out, the entire day. And stop by the stream. I would appreciate it a lot. So what does Loon Knight drop? Loon Knight, you do have to defeat him 10 times, and he does drop the boots, the deck. He also does drop square jewels, sword pins, and then of course the dust. So luckily you only do have to defeat him 10 times if you are going to be farming this, but he does drop the boots, and the boots are pretty good depending on how you look at him. Of course, if you haven't done the Nightmare Dungeon, you're going to be farming this guy anyways for the boots, but I do like the decks because they have some really good utility behind them. So me personally, I will be farming Loon Knight for the decks specifically, and I know some people do want the boots. I will be using the boots depending on the character, but yeah, they're pretty good overall, and you're going to be needing this anyways if you haven't done the Nightmare Dungeon. And I'd rather do this dungeon personally than fight Malice. But let's talk about Loon Knight now. Loon Knight is one hell of a tedious fight. I'm just being genuine, right? We have two strats for you. One's going to be basically Fire Storm Hitter, and then you have another strat, which is the Incendiate strat. We'll do the Incendiate strat afterwards because I know a lot of you guys are going to be majority leaning towards the casual player setup. So let's start with that. So this whole dungeon has 3 fights. You have 2 bosses at the beginning, and then you go into the second room, you have a single boss, and then at the end, you basically fight all the previous bosses from the previous rooms, and on top of that, you fight Loon Knight at the end. And you might be wondering, when you go into that room, you might be like, well, they're not even there. At the beginning of the round, he will polymorph all of them, so we'll get to that portion. So let's start off with the first fight. This fight spams a lot of cheats. This fight and the last fight, because of how many iterations of shields, 1-2 punch, everything like that. Basically anything that you do will trigger a cheat at this point. So even if you frenzy, you blade, you trap, you bubble, like basically anything you do, you're gonna trigger a cheat. So this fight takes a minute, just in general, this whole dungeon does. So with the first fight, what we're going to be doing is we're doing Mass Feint and then Potent Feint on Quentin Quayle, which is, I believe that's how you say that, but it's the balance boss. And then you also want to be feinting him as well. So Potent Feint into the regular feint for Quentin. And then the last person's your hitter. So it's a Firestorm, right? And we're going to be using Frenzy. You can use Reinforce if you have Reinforce. Either or works, but I just prefer it just because not everyone has a Reinforced pet, right? Then on the following round, person 1 is going to be Shatter. You should get Shatter at this point. It's on amulets. You can get it on a pet. There's like the 2-pip Shatter pet. You can even use TC. But yeah, you're going to be using Shatter on Drake Lockley. He is the Storm Duck, and you'll know who he is because he spams 1-2 punch a lot. And then the next person is also going to be casting Shatter, but on Quentin Quayle. So to get rid of all those shields because of the feints and everything like that, they'll have a lot of shields. And you can brute force this and just be like, hey, I have a lot of pierce. Let me just pierce everything. You can, but it still takes another round, I'd say. So it's just better if you use Shatter, and it's more efficient. And then the third person will be casting a 35 Fire Storm Bubble. You can get that on Amulet. You can use the Jewel Sockets. I know it's on certain pets, the Fire one at least, but if your third person's a Storm, you can use a Storm Bubble from the Storm Cloud. And yeah, and then the last person is just going to be using a 7-pip AoE. So your Dragon or your Storm Lord, either or. So you should be fine when it comes to that. But the first fight, very annoying, a lot of cheats, a lot of cheat spam, and yeah, you'll experience in this fight and you'll know what I'm talking about. Then we move on to the second fight with Old Quack. Old Quack doesn't really do much, from my experience at least, but pretty straightforward of a fight. He does have some minions and stuff like that, but it's really not that big a deal. So what we're going to be doing is doing Mass Feint and then Potent Feint and Feint on, of course, Old Quack. doing a frenzy on the last person, and then the following round, the other two people can realistically pass because you don't really need that many buffs. If for some reason you're lacking in damage, have person 1 or have person 2 sharpen blade, LE blade you, or TC blade or something like that. You shouldn't need it though if you have solid damage. But if you're running like 110 damage into the Loon Knight fight, okay, we have some problems. All right, we do have some problems. But yes, at that point you shouldn't even be the hitter. But ideally, just feint stack and then frenzy and then use the bubble, because third person's already having a amulet anyway, so we're just going to keep the consistency. Use your fire bubble or storm bubble, and then hit with Stormlord or Fire Dragon. Keep that in mind, of course. Now we can actually move on to the final fight, which is the third fight of this dungeon, and Loon Knight. Loon Knight. So you have Loon Knight, and then of course we have all the previous ducks. He will polymorph them at the beginning of the round to turn into the previous ducks. So don't ego them and be like, oh, they only have like 2k or 3k. No, at the beginning of the round, he will polymorph them into the previous ducks that you just fought. So keep that in mind. Now, this portion is a little bit more in-depth. Reason being is you do have to have certain pips. So make sure on your deck you do select myth pips, because you are going to be needing it for in case you do lack pips. So having a myth pip, you'll see what I mean. So same strat at the beginning. You're going to be doing mass feint, and then you're going to be doing potent feint on Drake, which is a storm duck, and then we're also be going to doing a potent feint on Loon Knight specifically, and then the last person's going to pass. Now you might be wondering, can I just blade or anything like that? If you want a weakness on you and you want to take damage, go for it. It's really just up to you, but it just extends this fight even longer. If you're really lacking in damage and everything like that, have the fourth person blade themselves. But you shouldn't really need it if you have decent stats. But as like a safety net, hey, you guys can go for it, blade yourself, whatever. But I would use like a fire blade or a storm blade, like a 0 pip one, so you don't waste pips. So there's that. Round 2, we're gonna be doing potent feint on Quentin Quayle, which is the balanced one. That's why I color coded these a certain way so I remember. So Quentin Quayle is the balanced duck, so potent feint him. And then the second person is going to be doing a potent feint on Old Quack. And then the third person is going to be using an item card potent feint on Loon Knight. You can get item card potent very easily. You can get it on Dragoon Boots. You can get it on Amulet. You can get it on a tier socket in Waldaroo. No one should be complaining about how to get item card potent. Very easy to get. So do that. And then the last person is going to be using TC Shatter. You want to be using the one that says remove 3. Don't be using the one that says infinite shatter. I mean, you can if you want to, but like, you know, you want to save your pips. So realistically, just use shatter that is 2 pip, right? And make sure you do have myth pips, because you are trying to like make sure you have enough pips for round 4. So you can use TC Shatter. It's pretty easy to get, and there's that. Third person is going to be doing item card potent feint on Quentin Quayle. Like I said earlier, item card potent feint's really not that hard to get, so do that. And then the second person is going to be doing item card potent feint on Old Quack. We're just literally feint stacking all of them. You guys can see what I'm going with this. Third person is they're going to be using Shatter, and they're using the Shatter specifically. It's infinite Shatter, meaning it can destroy more than 3. So you want to be using that. You can get that on a pet. You can get that on some Crown's gear. I'm pretty sure has it. An amulet. There's that. Like if you have an amulet that has that, and then you can sock it on a bubble or use a pet. Like there's many variations I can go into in depth and of where you should be getting these shatters. There's even the TC ones that have infinite. So specifically on Loon Knight though. And then the last person is going to be doing Frenzy to get ready for their hit. And then at the last round, person 1 is going to be using an amulet or a treasure card, depending on where you're getting this from, which is a shatter that destroys all shields. So infinite shatter, not the one that removes 3, the one that removes multiple. And then same thing as the second person, you're going to be doing that on Old Quack. And then finally, the third person is going to be using a storm bubble or fire bubble, specifically the ones that are 35%. Like I said, you can get on a pet, triangle jewel, an amulet. It just comes down to what you want to do. And then finally, the last person is going to be hitting with a fire dragon or a sirens. So doing all that will finally kill Loon Knight. I know it's a lot of explaining to do, but it's feint stacking. You're basically, the TLDR of it is you're feint stacking all of them with, like 2 times and then mass feint. And then after that, all of you guys are going to be shattering them specifically so they don't have shields. And then you just bubble hit with 7 pit. Kind of straightforward. So there's that. Now we can move on to the Incendiate portion of this video, which is the one I'm going to be doing because it's quicker and it requires less setup. So let's go backtrack all the way back to the first fight, which we have the two ducks, which is Drake and Quentin. What you want to do is do Mass Feint and then Potent Feint, specifically on Quentin Quayle. And then the third person does Frenzy, and then the fourth person can use an item card feint or a treasure card feint, really just up to you. Treasure card feint's pretty easy to get, you can just get it from a vendor. But use feint on Drake, and then the following round, person 1 is going to be using Shatter on Drake, and then person 2 is going to be using Shatter on Quentin Quayle, and then Scald Incendiate. So basically the same premise, but less buffs, and you only need one extra feint, which is for Quentin Quayle because he has higher HP. So there's that. But literally, you can just double feint, kill both of them, shatter both of them, and then Scald Incendiate. That's the TLDR variation of that. Move on to the second fight. It's even easier. You don't even need to spend another round. You just do Mass Feint, Potent Feint, Scald Incendiate. Pretty straightforward. I think you guys know where I'm going with this, so there's that. Second fight's a breeze. Don't stress out too much about it. Just, yeah, if you have the right setup, you can just one round that fight. It's not that hard. Any size, so you boost. So look forward to that. And then finally move on to the infamous fight, which is the last fight with all the ducks and all the cheat spam. So TLDR, make sure you have myth pips and everything like that. And you're basically be doing the same thing, kind of similar to like the previous strat, where you do Mass Feint and then you do Potent Feint, and then make sure you use Pierce on the Drake boss, which is the Storm one. And then the last person's going to be using that treasure card feint on Old Quack. And then the second round, make sure you do Shatter on Old Quack. And then you're going to be using an item card backdraft, specifically item card. You can get this. It's pretty farmable. I believe the Avalon key bosses drop it. So all the hats have backdraft on them. So you should have this. Make sure you're rocking a Fire Mastery, of course, if you are using backdraft. People might ask, hey, can I use Potent? You can, but like honestly, backdraft, specifically item card, has a higher percentage. So I would preferably do that. And it's not hard to get. Then the third person is going to use Frenzy or Reinforce. And then the last person is going to be using an item card, Fire Bubble. You can get that on a jewel or a pet. Very easy to get. So I shouldn't hear anyone complain about that too much. But there's that. And then the last round, you're going to be just basically shattering the other two bosses and then Scald Incendiate. Very straightforward. I know it's a lot of information I just tossed on you guys. But this fight is very long. This fight is very long. It's not something you can just go A, B, C, D. You have a full-on dungeon to do. So be on the lookout for when you actually have to farm this. And yeah, I mean, yeah, you only got to do it 10 times, right? If you want the badge, you only got to do it 10 times. But still, it takes a minute. And this guy does drop the boots and decks. And I most likely will be farming him. But I'll probably be farming him on challenge mode. So there's that. And that's a whole different story, which we'll talk about in another video down the line. So that's basically Loon Knight. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Or by the time this video comes out, hopefully I'm streaming. If I'm not, I mean, join the Discord, right? Join Discord. These slides will be literally in the Discord. So literally pass them around, show them to your friends, and be like, hey, this is what we got to do for all these fights. I'm literally making your guys' life so much more easier because I already did all the calculations. So there's that. But leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Join Discord, as I said. Stop by the stream whenever I am live streaming. And we will be playing a lot of Selenopolis, so look forward to that. That is it, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.